Good evening. It's April the 4th, 2025. The Wall Street Weekly wrap up with your host, John Newquist. And it was a bloodbath this week. Just crazy, crazy red. So, our next gen portfolio, we're down 11% for the year, but today we added 6%, and so we're up or minus 17.5 for the year. And that's tough. Almost at a bear market. Everything's down. The Dow's down. The S&P's down. Everything. Nasdaq's worse than us. 19.3. So the worst quarter since 2022, which is COVID. And it fell, 4.6% and 8.4. What was the last 2 days like? I've tracked the Nasdaq worst day since 1987, the big crash back then, and we had, not the worst, but we had in the top 30 worst days on the Nasdaq. The tariff shocked everybody much more than anybody imagined. Much more. I'm going to lower this down here, and that's not good. And of course, then China going to retaliate. And then everybody's like, okay, this is going to be ugly. One of the things I talk about when I've tracked all these NASDAQ down days is a rule of three. A lot of these times, these 5% down days come in groups of three. So that's why we're going to do some rebalancing on the portfolio, because I think we got one more big 5% down day in the next 3 months, and it's not going to be pretty. And we're going to try to be more defensive, less tech. We're going to have to cut some good companies, and that's a tough thing. But, we got a couple different ways. It's kind of like the hurricane maps. Which way is the hurricane going to go? Well, which way is this red bloodbath going to go? Is it going to end next week? I don't know. I doubt it. It's not going to be easy. I started realizing I think the president likes dealing with all these countries, making these deals, and he enjoys it. It's like what he likes to really do. And so everybody's got a high tariff. Got to deal with like 60 countries, 60 different meetings, meet with all these leaders, talking about different things, and kind of like he did Canada and Mexico in 2016. So the QQQ, oh my God, look at it. Thursday here, boom, it's bad. It's really bad. I mean, 200-day moving average is way up here, and it just got worse today. It just bled worse. So like I said, we're watching it. It broke the trend line, it went down, and I'm like, okay, well, let's watch and then go through. I mean, we've been through several corrections, and you can't. I think 87 was horrible for the year, but I think what was soul sucking for a lot of people, 2001, 40% down in the techs, Nasdaq's 40% down next year, and 40% now. I remember Kevin Landis, the hottest stock picker in the 90s, 40% down, 40% down, 40%. And if you just had $1 million, you lost 400,000. You're down to 600,000. Then you lost another 40%. That's another $240,000. So you're down to 360. And then you lost another 40%. If you could stay in the market after that and bought tech, you'd have been great. But wow. And I don't know. I mean, is it going to happen? I mean, this is an ugly thing. This is going to be 3 years. It could be 3 years of pain. I really, really hope not, but we'll see. We'll go through. Everything's down. I mean, look at oil. I mean, $62 a barrel. So that's why we're doubling the oil with Conoco and Exxon. We're going to go to Conoco and take it out. And we're essentially flat Conoco. So let's take the money. We're going to buy some stocks Monday. And we'll go over what we're going to buy, and then we're going to try to sit there and get a little bit more balance, a little less tech, and just try to go and get some of the little third tier companies out. We're not going to sell our kings. Our kings are Nvidia, ARM, and Taiwan. That demand is super hot, and we'll talk about it. Gold even went down. I mean, we got $3,200, and boy, it's almost down $170 an ounce in 2 days. So, Silver's down, gas is down, everything. It's ugly. I mean, look at these things. Just the daily. I mean, oil went down 7%. I mean, here's the crude oil chart. It's like, wow, this is a fall. Don't go chasing the waterfall. You know, as the song goes. This is an ugly waterfall. So, you know, Monday could be ugly. You know, I mean, it's not going to be more than 6%. But you know, you got to remember, there's a lot of people in these stocks, and if they're going to start moving the stuff over to the bonds and staying out of the stocks, you're going to have a lot more money to go. It takes usually 3 days to unwind a lot of it. So, you know, if it goes down Monday, it goes down Monday. But we're going to trade. We're not. You know, I don't want to sit there and tell people, don't just sell everything. Sell two, buy one. Sell two, buy one, because you might be buying at the bottom, which I had been there, you know, several times. You know, in 2009 in March when it went down, we were buying at the bottom. We sold some, but we bought at the bottom for a lot of the big ones. Lithium up in Nebraska. They say this thing's huge. Arkansas's got one. It's huge. Lithium is, you know, it's like a snake. I mean, you know, this thing, 50,000 yuan. I don't like using this, but I couldn't find a chart with the money, so just look at Chinese currency. It's up 10 times. The Chinese retaliated with 34% tariffs. And guess who owns a lot of rare earth metals that we want? That's ugly. So you know, if they want to really make it painful, why don't we just say, we're not just going to sell to you anymore. You're going to have to buy in a third-party market, or we're going to jack up the price 100% for you. Remember, we need it for, you know, technology, the chips and everything else. So the Magnificent 7, it's down 30% from the peak, and it could be down 50% from the peak. You know, I mean, you look at this chart, nice solid thing for the year, then all of a sudden start talking about tariffs with Canada and Mexico, and then now we're down here, pop, pop, pop. I just used the Mags Roundhill ETF, you know, because you could buy the Magnificent 7, and look at the volume of people getting out of this thing, getting up there, and I mean, you know, it'd be nice to have a blow-off volume. Then they can kind of say, okay, everybody's out that wants out, but I think we still got more. Lilly, you know, again, you know, the whole thing about the compounding when Wegovy and all these other drugs were in short supply, you know, Hims and Hers were making, buy one stick, compound it to make 4 different products and at a deeper price. And they said, hey, we don't have anything to do with Hims and Hers. And there is no shortage, allegedly, but I can tell you that's possibly true. And we're going to, you know, let us know. We're not going to go in there. But Lilly, look at this. It doesn't matter how good you are. When they want to sell, the high flyers, they're going. Now, Lilly is, I don't think, has really done much since the summer. But it's, you know, it took a hit like it was a tech stock. And, you know, I think they got the best pipeline of all the drugs companies. So we're going to stick with Lilly. I cannot tell you how the Novo Nordisk Ozempic will do with the tariffs. Is it going to be 20, 30, whatever percent coming in, and people are paying? It'll all switch to Lilly. Why would you buy Novo Nordisk if it's like 50% higher than the Lilly? So this is a lot of gamemanship, and I don't want to find out. I'd rather buy Lilly, because who's going to win if it isn't a drug war? It's going to be Lilly, because it's made here. So, you know, these are things that you got to start thinking about. What's the effect of tariffs? We got to be defensive. We cannot buy a company that's dependent on foreign revenues. Phillips Morris, you know, Supreme Court heard it. You know, they've been hitting them on the vape pens and all this other stuff. And Supreme Court, arbitrarily and capriciously, the FDA acted. That is a big deal. Normally, this thing would shoot up again. Of course, we're in a selling period. It's still a good stock. You know, we bought it when it paying an 8% dividend. But, you know, I mean, that's a defensive stock. And, of course, some people say, I'm never going to buy a tobacco stock. That's fine. I'm not that way. I mean, I look at it, you know, as, you know, they're not out there selling it to kids. You know, well, they're selling vape pens that are Blueberry favorite. All right. But, you know, like I said, I was a kid. I remember the ad. I mean, I was there when they were advertising. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. And, you know, some people going to use it. I think it was really the actors. You know, when you had these actors that smoking and they look cool, I think you'd want to be them.
This is a reminder. 1931 Great Depression 3 Lessons.
Oh, the 3 lessons of the Great Depression. Let's talk about it.
This is a reminder. 1931 Great Depression 3 Lessons.
You know, one of the things I've done over 30 years is talk to people who lived through the Great Depression. When they were kids, you know, they're like in the 90s now. And, you know, but it was interesting talking to the people, you know, over the last, 10 years. Like, what'd you do? The three things that everybody seemed to have that made it survive in there was they owned their own house. So you didn't have to jump around, pay for apartments, get kicked out of the apartment and stuff. They grew their own food. I mean, you can't grow everything, you know. You can't, I mean, I'm in the city. I'm not going to have a cattle ranch and eat beef and stuff, but I can grow a lot of fruits and vegetables to the point where I don't have to buy this stuff in the summer. And that's a little bit, it helps out, And of course, how are we going to handle all these fruits and vegetables from South America, Mexico and stuff? They're going to take a tariff of 25% or something? Going to cost that much more? I mean, how much are you going to pay for blueberries out of Chile? You going to pay $5 a little pint? Come on. I mean, some people will, but the average person is going to say, hey. And then, of course, the restaurant, what are you going to do? You got pancakes with crepes and blueberries? What are you going to make it $20 for 3 crepes? Nobody's going to buy that. I mean, there'll be somebody, but not going to be something they're going to eat every week. So, these are issues that we've got to talk about. NVIDIA. Google said, let's go talk to CoreWeave and get the AI chips because there's an AI chip shortage. The Grace Hopper is in such short demand. The Chinese want the H200 chip, and it's in short demand. And guess what? Who benefits? NVIDIA. That's why we're not selling the 3 kings, ARM, NVIDIA, and Taiwan Silicon. That'll be the last thing we'll sell. We'll sell everything else before that because the demand is there. I watched the 3 CEOs, Ballmer, Bill Gates, and Sanjay Nadella on Microsoft on the 50th anniversary talk about this is the new revolution. You got to be in it. You got to be doing products related to it. It makes a difference. So, don't tell me that this is an issue. And yeah, I know NVIDIA, it was up a lot higher, and we were up at a certain amount of money, but I understand. It's painful. I don't think I got the NVIDIA chart. Alexa, what's the NVIDIA price?
When the market closed, NVIDIA traded at 94 US
See,
dollars.
I don't even have the right chart on there.
On the Nasdaq,
Gotta go chew that
down
person who put these
7.4%
charts together.
since previous close.
I bet Alexa, what's the Google price?
When the market closed on April 4th, 2025, the market capitalization of Alphabet, previously known as Google, was $1,790 billion US dollars.
All right, well, whatever. We don't have the right chart. What are we going to do? I'm going to put it out there because, we got, 6 of us working together, and we're going to, I was working all day, and, we all got little jobs and stuff like that because I'm working hard to save money because I think there's going to be a recession, and that's my flu. Have the money. When it slows down, you're going to get through it. Don't be out there blowing it. And that's everybody else. Consumers stopping spending or slowing spending. Don't get crazy with money. Just try to go out and budget it out and, be through it. We're going to buy Southern. We were underweight utilities anyway, so 3.3% dividend. Dollar General, one of the best stocks. If you had to pick a stock in 2001, 2, 3 to hold, Dollar General was it. Walmart's a good stock. Don't get me wrong. I was thinking, does it go Costco? Does it this? I think if it's really bad, people are not going to pay the fee for Costco. Just a hunch. I go to Dollar General once, or Dollar Trees and stuff like that. These are stores that are pretty busy. Got a one-person stock and one-person cashier, and they wait 8, 10 deep because the products are cheaper. Flutter, #1 gambling site. I know people gamble. They gambled during the Depression. They're going to gamble. Go with the #1. Remember, we're not going to go with #2, #3, #4. And then Progress Software we'll talk a little bit about, but we're going to go through. I mean, we're going to have to cut down the, we're overweight medical because we're going to think who's going to get the basket. We don't have that opportunity. If we got to be more defensive now, we'll have to put medical more balance and not overweight. So, we're going to lose a lot of them. Broadcom, I don't like. Broadcom's a seller, but again, we're going to have to reduce our tech exposure. So, last in, first out, as I call it. Same for Siri. Elf, it's getting hit with the terrorists. The products of Elf are going up. Will they still buy it? Yes. Is it still great? Yes. But let's let this thing settle out. I think it's, these cosmetics are going to take a big hit on the terrorists. And Elf does a lot of advertising with TikTok, and the Chinese said, We're going to pause the sale. They wanted to sell. Deadline's going to be today. They're going to get an extension, another 75 days. They're trying to do it. This is worth a fortune. And maybe Chinese don't budge. Maybe they see who blinks first, because I don't think the Chinese need a lot of stuff from us. They like a lot of things like these chips, but if you can't get them, then what the hell? And if they all gang up on the United States, then that's not going to be a present. Again, oil, we're double weight with Exxon and COP, so we're going to loosen that down. We'll keep our gas one Southwest, and then, of course, the other one that's the kind of energy is uranium. Again, if we see a slowdown, a lot of that spending is going to go, and if the power efficiencies of these newer chips are that good, maybe we won't need a big back supply. You know, we have NI, which is Nextera, to take off the slower. When we look at 2001, because, you know, like I said, the collapse started in 2000, and then it got crazy in 2001, and dropping it even further. And what was good, and NVIDIA, look at that. Hey, it's up there. We weren't in NVIDIA back then, but I knew about it, you know. And but look at the things. People bought used cars. AutoZone fixed their own cars up. They gambled for entertainment. You know, Booking.com was new, so they went and traveled, which isn't the case. I think people are going to cut back spending. I think if you want to see a vacation this summer, it's going to be fairly cheap. Planes are not going to be full because people are going to try to save some money. And again, some other texts. I remember Western Digital. Oh yeah, how much can we make for the portable flash drive? You know, because you had to have it. You know, memory was going leaps and bounds, and you know, between iOmega and Western Digital and Seagate, they were the places to buy, and you know, because the sales are going up as people are buying the more and more memory. Before we had the cloud to store things on. TikTok put on hold. I think the Chinese were caught off guard like everybody else was. 34% on top of the 22%. Oh my God. You know, you think about, you know, Amazon went down 10%. Where's Amazon? I says, you're still going to buy it. If Amazon's got the cheapest product and you need it, you're going to buy it off of Amazon. You're going to go to Walmart. You're going to do it. It's not going to kill that company, but it's going to mean maybe less sales. Remember, as prices go up, you're going to buy less of it, and that's going to be an issue. Again, he signed an exit order to keep it 75 days. He's making a deal, but I'm telling you, the Chinese government stopped it. It was going to expire today, and they called his bluff. No, we're not going to do it. And of course, instead of, you know, 600 million, whatever this TikTok's worth, you know, I look at it. Sales in 2025 is supposed to be $9 billion. All right, if you bought it at 90 billion, that's 10 times sales. Okay, that's not too bad. You go buy it at $1 billion, it's 100 times sales. I'm not so. I think the algorithm on TikTok's worth a fortune. I think it's worth $1 trillion almost.
This is a reminder. The recession that might come. This is a reminder. The recession that might come.
Well, we might have it. Economy slows down, unemployment goes up. All these things are happening. Now, I got to sit with 26 manufacturers today. They're not letting go, but they're not hiring a lot either. Not a lot. They were hiring a lot, but now it's kind of like at equilibrium. They're not seeing the tariffs going to be an issue because they buy a lot of U.S. products. Not a lot of foreign sales, so, you know, for them, it's a lot of noise, you know. But if the bigger companies they sell to are slowing down, that's where they're going to see it. So if we have a recession in the fall or late summer, that's what people are going to worry about. The tariffs, like I said, I did like this map. Anything that's dark is ugly. And, you know, sometimes, you know, these African countries, like, what? We don't sell that much to them. But, you know, South America essentially got a pass. And, you know, maybe there's not a lot of trade. A lot of fruits and vegetables, you know, so. But, you know, the Asia, China, holy smoly, you know, that's a lot of red. I mean, I just picked on these three big ones here. EU is going to get 20%. China, 34%. India, 26%. So, pretty hefty products coming out there. And I saw the president say, we're going to get $7 trillion if this works out right. You'd be lucky to get $2 trillion out of tariffs. I'm just going to say my opinion. I don't think you're even going to get close to $7 trillion. Because I don't think these standards are going to, you can't run to it. You can't make this stick. You know, otherwise you're just asking for the Great Depression now. You know, I mean, that's Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act was a big issue. Go back to McKinley. All of a sudden, prices are up 50% for a lot of people, and they lose 93 seats in Congress. So I'm not a fan of all these tariffs. I don't mind targeted tariffs, but this is just way too high, and it's not going to work. We're going to have problems with it. And of course, like I said, I don't think it was a single person expecting that kind of massive thing. You know, there was like, 10% for these countries, 20 for some. Tesla, lowest delivery in 3 years. A lot of sales. Remember, they sell 30,000 cars in China. They're going to go down to 3,000. You know, if the Chinese start hitting Tesla, you got to remember, their loyalty is not to Elon and Tesla. Their loyalty is the Communist Party. So they're into all about protecting themselves, and they sell, you know, beyond our wildest dreams, sells 400,000, 300,000 cars alone in China. All of what Tesla's delivering for the quarter. So this was a disaster on every single metric. You know, they got protests at the Tesla dealership. Europe's burning the Teslas. I mean, you know, time's come for Elon. Better sit there and watch your company, otherwise you're going to have no value in it. You know, it's fork in the road moment, as they call it. So I think it's, you know, like I said, it's at the $200 level. I think it can go much lower. OpenAI, we're going to make ChatGPT much better than we thought. I'm going to show you this photo. This is AI. You cannot tell that's an AI photo. Somebody can say, well, I like to look at the hands. And I'm saying that hand is pretty good. She's got 4 fingers holding the thing. She's got 5 fingers with the finger pointing up. And that's an AI image. And I just picked on this topic because I see this all the time in social media. And this is all AI people. They're not real people. They want to talk to you. Said, hey, I'm having a hard time. Can you give me some money? I just need 25 bucks. And gullible 25 bucks becomes 50 bucks to 100 bucks, and eventually they'll bleed you dry. And you don't even know the person. They can have you talk to that person. You know, this is what it's coming up to. So I tell people, just be careful, because this is an AI image, and that's scary. And if they, you know, and all they want you to do is respond. It's kind of like you picking up the phone. Hey, we got a mortgage. Except they want you to get in there, once you get hooked, and then hopefully get emotionally involved and give money. So, again, they want to have enough capacity support, which they think is unprecedented demand. I don't doubt it. If we can go this right now I can make her talk and say things. Can you give me the AI image of a girl sober talking about what her life was today? And just make it sound good, and next thing you know, I mean, you know, this thing can get out of control, and you're not going to know what's real or not. And I mean, I just sit there and I'm stunned at how good that photo is, and you're not going to know. So you could be talking to this person, and it's not even a lady, somebody in another country looking at it and, you know, hoping to give some money, because, you know, the end result is, what's the end result of talking to this person? You know, you're gonna go meet an AI image? No. But if you can get money from it, from this, you know, just think, all these people who don't use AI, who can't pick that this person's not real. You know, they can make this person, you know, I've already seen, you know, Brad Pitt's fake images scamming all these other people that are, you know, like lonely widows. That's it. I mean, this is crazy. That's what's going to come in, and OpenAI is leading it. They've now pulled up kind of another level higher. Newsmax came out Monday, IPO'd around about 10 bucks, and next thing you know, it's up 900%, 10x. You know, I mean, I don't remember what it came out. I just remember it came out, and like, all right, let's just watch it. You know, I'm not a fan of buying IPOs, because once the lockup period, they dump it, and tends to take a hit, and then you got to wait for a while for all the other stuff. But this is absolutely crazy. You know, so let's say it came out at 30 bucks, going up to almost 300 in 2 days. And of course, you were dumb enough to buy that. You know, you lost a lot of money. You know, just stay away from the IPOs. It's a tough market to IPO, but you know, this is not a. I mean, people forget the politics in Newsmax. Well, efficient run. They don't spend a lot of money. They just focus on the news. That's very, very lopsided on their news, but that's, if you're looking for a company that's going to kind of take a narrow niche and doing well, it's not a bad company. So Again, Progress Software is one of the companies we're looking at. I always watch the earnings, and when they said, "Hey, look at the earnings, 28% up." Okay, that's good. I mean, anytime you're up double digits, I'm looking at it. Anytime you're up over 20%, you're in a very small club. So what do? They have ShareFile. Oh, I know what that is. When I do legal work, hold on.
This is a reminder. Become defensive is the best strategy, right?
Yes,
This
that's
is
what
a
we're doing.
reminder. Become defensive is the best strategy, right?
Generally, the essentials is what you need. You need food. You need to be able to go buy stuff cheap. So that's where the dollar stores, Walmart come in. You're going to be good. And then, of course, the consumer staples are things you're going to eat. So Coca-Cola and things like that, who make products, those are, even Hormel, we're going to buy those products. I mean, I don't want to say you're going to buy a Hormel, but when it's a low, cheaper meat, it's in it. I mean, I went to the store the other day. I says, okay, let's see what the cheapest steak they sell, and there was nothing under 15. Nothing under 15. So, well, you want steak, it's going to cost. Well, yeah, it's going to cost more, but I'm not going to say a can of Spam for $5 is the equivalent, but this is what people have to choose when you're kind of limiting your budget. I don't want to say they want to choose Spam, but they may eat more Spam, and you will like it, of course, right? But I use ShareFile a lot with the attorneys. So when they're giving me all these legal files, you go into ShareFile, it downloads it, and then you put it in your file. It's a way to transfer documents securely. I don't know of any big hack. Maybe there is, but this is something I always say, like the Peter Lynch. I use it. My clients, the big lawyers, use it, and they're making money. I mean, $1.31 per share, but that growth is good. And you got to remember, if the attorneys are using it, the medical people are using it, they've got a niche. I got to believe a big player is going to want to buy them out. I mean, whatever value they are, this is nothing to the big boys where, one of the hyperscalers can go in and buy this company. So Bitcoin, again, we're hovering around in the low 80s again. We got, it's kind of like, you look at it, you almost can put an eyeball. This is like a kind of a dragon. Here's our dragon hump and the long tail, Everybody's wondering, will it go up? Tom Lee even backed off now instead of, he said, well, I think it'll get up to 150 this year. This guy was talking 450,000. Kathy Woods, who I don't say is any innovation whatsoever, talking $1 million. So I mean, I think 150 is a reasonable target. I really do. But everybody's going to the physical gold. But this is a tough time right now. There's a lot of selling. And the people that are, that I know are six, they're into the Robinhood and Bitcoin and everything else. And this has been absolutely brutal. Because remember, Bitcoin is holding the best out of them. You own these other ones, they're just tanking bad. So our software group, we're going to go in. If we had the Progress, it'll be our second one. We'll be balanced in it. Ideally we'd have two of each. In a harder time, one of each. But the IGV ETF, you can see bad this day, dropped lowest, in this, but still not the worst. Again, Microsoft, 50th anniversary, was $3 trillion, going up 12% revenues a year. That's good. Yes, CrowdStrike, Snow are better now, ServiceNow, but I think they're going to see slowdowns. What I show, and I just color coded it, is they all went down slightly from the quarter before. What went up? Palantir and Coinbase, but Coinbase is going to get hit as you can see with the Bitcoin going down. Palantir has got defense contracts. They're not even close to getting done with the defense. I mean, I got to believe Palantir is going to take a hit. Somebody says, well, they backed the vice president. That's fine. But when you got to make some cuts, and the cuts could be ugly, maybe you take some hits. I don't know if you'll get 36% next year on it. So we'll see. I mean, defense is, the big budget after, the interest in the Social Security and all the other entitlements. So Microsoft up in Mount Pleasant. Pausing portions. So, they're getting the main data center done. They're getting the Blackwell chips. But, the whole thing is okay, we're going to get inference, which is already in the Grace Hopper chips. But the whole thing is now making our AI image talk, making Alexa act like a real person. I was watching AI where the person was showing me they have conversations in the car with AI and asking test questions and things like that. So this is what it's going to be: is if they get to know you, you're going to have a interaction with it that's more human-like. And again, they're going to spend billions of dollars at that place in Mount Pleasant. And but the whole issue is they're going to look at it because they're trying to figure out what are we actually going to use all these super chips for. They have an idea what they want to use it for, but we want to be able to sit there. They talk about, like I said, there's a shortage. They've got the demand. The big four, Amazon and Microsoft and Google and Meta, have got the big chunk of the new Blackwell chips. Everybody's waiting. It's November 2022. We got the taste of it, or 2023, the taste of OpenAI, and now the question is, what's the next step and who's going to do it? Well, I don't think it'll come out right away, but 2026, we're going to see some revolutions that we thought were incredible. I saw a person use next gen software speaking like this in Cantonese. I was like, well, how do you do it? He says, I just do the recorded video. I paid $8.50 for a next gen. It converts it to Cantonese, or whatever you want to use. He did one in Swahili. I says, you're kidding me. No, it just takes it, listens to your voice, puts it in, matches your thing, lip syncs it. I couldn't believe how stunning that was. So these are things that are happening where I will look like a perfect person. I can speak any language you want. Put this video, I can make this in German, French, Italian, Chinese, Russian, anything. That's what the future is. And, that's a software program. And pretty soon I can make myself, flying in the air, talking stocks. Oh, the retail map. Well, I call it a bloodbath. It is all red. Oh, yeah, United Health went up, and TJ Maxx, again, our discounters are going to do well. But it was pretty ugly, and it might be a little ugly next week. I don't think it'll be this ugly, but you look at Starbucks, Apple, Tesla. These are companies that do a lot of work in China. Is a portion of the revenue. It's going to be an issue. So real estate's in the United States, they'll be good. But people, today look at, okay, this is the roadmap to pick. And I says, it's not such a bad idea, but you just got to be careful. This is going to be a tough couple months. And remember, I said June 1st, we should hopefully settle a lot of this. We'll see. It might take longer. Keep on changing your mind. On, off, on, off, on, off. Then this could be a long, painful week. Next week, I'm hoping a little bit of pickup maybe. We could go sell out on Monday, and then everybody who wants out is out. And maybe we'll start to get sideways movement and maybe get some creep back up here. So I know it's been a tough week. You get through it. Don't do crazy. Like I said, we're going to be trading a lot Monday. We haven't traded in a long time, but this is just rebalancing, more defensive. Preparing if we do get a recession, we'll be in shape for it. We're not going to make a lot of money. We might lose money. It's just a matter of how much we don't lose. And that's, just sometimes as important as how much you make, because, if you're in a tough market, you got to stay in. You can't time the bottom. We don't know what's going to happen, and, who knows. So let's try to take care, stay warm, be good, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.